Thanks, guys. Really coming off our bye week, this past week, off week, thought gave us a chance to sort of self-evaluate ourselves a little bit, get fresh, obviously start on OSU, and then obviously do some recruiting and get with our players a couple times as well. So hopefully got some things done last week. Great challenge against Ohio State this weekend. Should be an exciting atmosphere. Game days here. This is, I think, the sixth time that maybe they've been here since 2011. So that's something that's special for them coming back. Obviously, the game has implications within our conference, especially within the division. So a huge football game and be a great challenge for us, as I said earlier. I think when you look at OSU's defense, very athletic, quick-bodied guys, very well-coached football team, tackle well on the perimeter. Play very well up front, play the ball in the deep part of the field. Look at them offensively, innovative, great skill players, well coached again. And obviously their quarterback's having a great year, and they've done an outstanding job getting him ready to play. But big play players that surround them. Special teams are going to be very big in this football game. I think both teams understand that. And, there'll be special plays. I think every football big game like this, really every play is sort of a life event. With respect to that, I mean that every play could be the difference between really winning and losing. It comes down to sometimes being that close. But I have a lot of respect for what's going on down there, a lot of respect for the Ohio State program in general, the history of it, and I'll just take some questions.
Mark, Coach Hinton yesterday at Ohio State, who you have a great history with and friendship with, to be quite frank, talked about anything that's said, even if it's nothing, you're going to find a way to put a chip on guys' shoulder. And you've done a good job of that. What's your key to always keeping your guys, even when they're favored to win, the underdog?
Well, I think what we try and do, first of all, I appreciate everything that Tim has done for us, and used to take me down home and let me ride his horses down there, so particularly fond of Ace, so you guys can print that. But even had me barrel racing one time around there. But Tim's a very good friend of ours, our families. What we've been able to do here, and I think what I've always tried to do with the players that I've been able to coach throughout the years, wherever I've been, is challenge our players. Challenge our players to the next context, the next goal, and that's what we do, and that's what we've done here. We've challenged our guys to become the best, to play at a high level, and to expect excellence and strive for excellence. And however we get that, there's different ways you get that as we move through it. But I don't think we don't put something negative in people's minds to challenge them necessarily. We're trying to challenge them to a higher standard, I think, always. But sometimes I do think you have to play with an edge. I think that this is a physical type of. I'm talking football in general is a very physical game, and I think it's a very emotional game, and you have to have your tank full, emotionally full, to be able to play through all the ups and downs of a football game.
Mark, what is the difference with J.T. Barrett at quarterback compared to Braxton Miller?
Well, I think they're both playmakers. Braxton Miller, certainly had more experience this particular year, coming into this year. I think Braxton is a little bit more tailback, more like I always used to say, he's like having a featured tailback in the backfield, and it can really take a play and take a bad play and make it a good play. I think JT is a little bit more, plays a little bit more controlled like a quarterback. He's throwing the ball very effectively, minimum amount of interceptions, high percentage, and I think that's probably where the difference is. I also think that JT is a very good runner as well, and he's a different type of runner. He's more of a run through you type of guy, power runner. But they'll run him as well. So, and he's got the ability to take bad plays and change them too.
Mark, you were talking about the next goals and next for your program is you've built this to beat Ohio State in back-to-back years in games of this significance and this importance, the Big Ten championship, and then this. Where does that elevate your program to from a perception standpoint? And can you just talk about that a little bit?
Well, I don't know if it's is it Ohio State or is it is it any other football team in this conference, that's winning at a high level. We've been there before against some of the other football teams that we've played. So to me, it's not so much about, well, maybe it is about winning this game because it sort of propels you forward, but it's the fact that can we win another division championship? What used to be the Legends, can we get in that championship game for the third time out of 4 years? Can we do that? And that's the big question. Now, obviously, this game, the way the standings look right now, this game is extremely important because you'll win the tiebreakers as well, whoever wins this game. So that's what makes it even more, I think, more important. But I think it's more of a conference thing rather than a personal, can we beat Ohio State? I think, can we represent our division in the Big Ten championship game? And then what can that springboard us towards?
Mark, I hate two-part questions, but
Okay.
can you address?
I can't remember usually the second part. So.
Can you address maybe if this is the biggest game you've coached in at Michigan State, given all the stakes? And then how this program has evolved into handling big games, because you had some earlier in your stay, and you've done very well in them in the last few years.
No, I don't see this as, I don't want to put that kind of pressure on this program or upon our coaches or upon our players. It's not the biggest game. The biggest game is usually will still be coming. Was the championship game last year the biggest game? That may have been because of the ramifications beyond then. But it's a big game. There's no question about that. It's a big game. It's a big game at Spartan Stadium. Should be a great atmosphere, as I said earlier. Our crowd will be into it. Our students will be into it. I mean, it's everything that you want in college football, in a college football game, I think. In terms of,
Well, we had some big games earlier in the state, maybe didn't do as well.
yeah, okay.
The program's had a lot of big games here the last few years.
Yeah,
Process?
and it's a process. I think that's exactly what it is. It's a process, and you're going to get there inevitably. If you play in enough of them, you're going to start to do better. You're going to start to play more confidently, and I think that's what we've been able to do. We're a more confident football team. We've played in these games. Our players are confident, and we expect success. Where I think when that's happening to you for the first time, there's a learning process. There's a curve there.
Mark, I think you guys really struggled to run the ball in that 2012 game against Ohio State, but with the way your offensive line is playing this season, how much better suited do you think you are to match up with Bosa and their front four?
I think our offensive line is an improved unit. There's a lot of things that goes into running the football, obviously, but whether it's scheme, concept, players themselves, the tight ends, the running backs, all the different things. So there's a lot to be talked about there, the balance of your offense. But I think you have to be successful, you have to do both. You have to be able to throw it and run it. You can't be one-dimensional in this game anymore. And if you look across the board, statistically, at them and us, there's a lot of parity and there's a lot of balance. There's parity within each other, statistically, but there's a lot of balance from both football teams. Equally balanced run and pass from both teams. About 50-50 in a lot of situations, that you look at as a defensive coach or an offensive coach. You see a lot of, I think you see a lot of balance.
How does their defensive line compare to Nebraska and Oregon?
Well, they've got very, very good players up there, and I'm not going to rank them 1, 2, and 3. That's not fair to anybody. But, obviously they're one of the better ones that we played.
Mark, I wonder if go to coaches' conventions, high school coaches, whatever, coaches admire the way you play. They ever tell you that? Just your style of play, the grittiness that it's called, and physical style.
I think coaches respect guys playing hard. That's what I think. They respect execution. They respect execution. They respect the toughness aspect, the aspect of being able to handle adversity. And that's what, you look at people and say, well, that's a very well-coached football team. Why? Because they can handle stress, or because they can handle pressure, or because they They do the little things that make you good. And when you look across the way and you look at Ohio State, you see this exact same thing. You see guys paying attention to detail. You see quick-bodied guys. You see their eyes, what they're looking at, and their eye control on defense. You can see the different things they get to on offense. You can see the repetition. You can see the downfield blocking. You can see things on special team that are very specific and it's being coached. And, so I appreciate that aspect of it. But, that's always like I said, you're always chasing excellence, I think.
Mark, a lot of people clamored for the national playoff, very celebrated. People wanted it. Now that you're in the middle of it, in the mix of it, and every win is dissected and teams are eliminated allegedly on this coming Saturday, do you like it as in reality as much as in concept now that you're in the middle of it?
I think the concept's good. I think the reality's good. I mean, to me, there's no difference in you're just adding two more teams, and you've got a committee doing it, and they're taking away some of the maybe power angles from other polls, which to me I think is a positive. But you're still, for us, you're still playing for a Big Ten championship. You're still playing to try and get in that division championship, because you have to realize that if you don't get there, you're not getting to the next step. And everybody, again, wants to go beyond where they've been before, but that's down the road. Those are things that need to be talked about in December. Right now, the focus has to be on what's occurring right now, and Ohio State's occurring right now.
Coach, I don't know if you had a chance to watch game day this weekend or see film of it, but
Yeah, I saw film.
you've commonly been personified as a pretty grouchy, stingy guy on the sidelines. Do you laugh at yourself? Do you realize that that's the personification? And what was your reaction to
What's my take on that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I laughed. I'm just about business on the sidelines. People that know me know how I am. But when you go to the sideline, there's a focus that has to be kept. I don't know. Maybe I just look me. Underneath it all, I'm really a good person. Try to be. Yeah, I saw that. He missed the gray.
Mark, you mentioned the grittiness that you like to have as part of your program. As with a top 5 offensive team that's more explosive, that those things normally aren't things people associate. Has it been tricky keeping that mentality while changing your offense to being one that puts up 40, 50 points a game?
No, because we're still going to go against each other. We're still going to go in the spring. There's going to be some live periods where everybody has to dig deep a little bit. We are not going to become, if win, loss, whatever, we are not going to become an entitled team. We want to be grounded in hard work. And that's what I've said over and over, and that's who we need to be. And that's just a part of the mentality that has to exist here. That helps us get better. That helps us develop players. That helps us go beyond where to continue to climb. When I talk about that, I'm saying individuals continue to climb and make themselves better. We've got to do that. I think that's coaching. I think you've got to do that because you can never be satisfied with your individual performance or your individual coaching aspect of it. You've got to try and find the new things to try and make it better. And, even just watching last year's game, and you see some of the different things that we did there, when you self-analyze, here's a way we can make this better.
What role has Dave played in that, and what were you wanting from him when you promoted him a couple years ago?
I think Dave Warner?
Yeah.
I think our entire coaching, offensive coaching staff has done a tremendous job. It starts obviously with Coach Bowman and Coach Warner. I think Coach Bowman has brought some new ideas in here, some new concepts. I also think that Coach Warner, Coach Salem, coaching the quarterbacks, now Coach State and coaching our offensive line now, those are 2 changes that were made in the last 3 years. Coach Salem Coach Samuels with the wide receivers. I think they've all done an outstanding job, and they add to it. And I think our players have faith in them. And like I said, over and over, we have won here because of chemistry and because our players believe in our coaches believe in our players, and we believe in each other. And I think that's been our secret to success. You know, we've been able to regroup when we've had failure, and we've been able to push forward when we've had success.
Mark, here in the back. Defensive end Marcus Rush is approaching the career starts record here at Michigan State, I believe, matching it this week. Over the last 4 years, what has he meant for this program? And as a coach and coaching staff, how beneficial has it been knowing that you have a reliable guy like him in the lineup week in, week out for the last 4 years?
Yeah, Marcus has been an outstanding player. Redshirted him from Cincinnati Moeller. Great program. Redshirted him in, I guess it would have been 2010. And since then, he's become a starter. So he will, you know, we're talking about a lot of players through here, a lot of years, consecutive starts. And, you know, he's a heart and soul type of guy, you know, extremely tough guy, plays very well, plays with his hands very well. He's a playmaker on the field, made a lot of plays for us throughout the years. And, you know, in big games, he's risen up and played extremely well. We expect that again from him this week. Very active player.
Mark, also in the back, looking at the success you guys had against OSU in the Big Ten championship game last year, will you be reminding your squad at all throughout the week about that success? Is that adding any added motivation or incentive?
Well, I think we've got, because we have a history versus them the last 3 years, we have a history in terms of playing against them. You know, there's some good you take away from that. There's some things where you need to get better at, but at least you have a history there that you can draw on. And obviously, with success comes more confidence, but, you know, confidence breeds success too, so however you want to look at it. But I don't think that we really use it. We look at it and say, you know, that football game, if you really look at it, which we've looked at it numerous times, obviously, is a game that went our way first, then turned their way, and they fought back and did an outstanding job with that. So can they handle adversity? Absolutely. And then it went our way again. So it was almost like 3 games there. So I think the key to the success of this football game, a lot of times, or any game, is how are you going to be able to handle the adversity. And that's going to come at inopportune times. So we just need to understand that's part of the game and play forward. Well, I've said I think since I've been here, the coaching that goes on in this league is outstanding, and you see different ways and the people are running the football, different ways that they're passing the football, very innovative, cutting-edge offensive football being played in this conference on a week-to-week basis. I think you see the same thing defensively. You know, you see more people trending towards some of the things that are done defensively in this league as well. So outstanding coaches and, you know, great skill players.
Mark, with Bosa, how do they move him around? Is it just random? Where do you expect to see him? And how much do you think he will match up with Conklin Saturday night?
I'm not sure on that. How much, you know, that's probably up to them, but he plays, you know, right, left, boundary field, so they do move him around. So what predicates that is a little bit probably coach speak. Him as a player, outstanding football player. Big, tough, active, great hands, powerful, relentless, great football player.
Speaking of coach speak, you've often talked about winning the inches, game of inches. Isn't that, to simplify this, what this game is all about, to evenly match teams, win the small battles, win the inches?
Yeah, I think that we're trying to find those inches in every football game. So there's no question we got to find them this week too.
Mark, you talked about making sure the emotional tank is full and using whatever motivational things there are. Urban Meyer said yesterday that Ohio State only has one rival and was referencing Michigan instead of Michigan State. What do you think about that? Does something like that stir your emotional tank?
No, not at all. You know, our rivals right here, right now, are Michigan and Notre Dame. That's how I see our rivals at Michigan State. I think there are teams that go, I would agree with him because I read his comments, agree with him. There's certain football teams that you start to begin to take shape as a rivalry as you play them. You know, and people were talking about us in Wisconsin a couple years ago. I saw he referenced that too. But a couple years ago, it was us and Wisconsin, the championship game, playing in 2011 in the big game here at night and all those things. And, you know, it's been Iowa, you know, playing a lot of close games with Iowa. It's been Ohio State. So I think it goes back and forth, but I think you need to have a very long history. I do think that we have a lot of players playing from Ohio, and I do think that makes it personal because you grow up in the state and you listen, you hear, you go home, you listen, you hear, and you know a lot of people that sits on that side of the fence, and I just think it's natural. And as I said earlier, I think it's just natural. You want to measure up. Don't measure up to Ohio State. You want to measure up to the people at home that you know, because that's where you're from. And it's be no different than if you're playing University of Wisconsin and Trey Waynes was playing against Wisconsin. You know, it becomes a little bit more personal when you're from there. It's just natural.
Mark, along those lines, can you talk about what the recruiting wars have been like in Ohio and the emphasis that you've placed on going into Ohio in your tenure and getting quality players?
Ohio has great high school football. They have a lot of great football players in that state, and you know, we've gotten quite a few. I think we have 27 maybe on our team right now, and we've been able to develop a lot of those players into great players. As far as the recruiting, it's just tough recruiting everywhere, and you're recruiting against whoever. And we know a lot of their players by name. Obviously, we know them. They've been on campus here in the past, so there's quite a few of those guys here. So, but that's recruiting. That's a part of college football or college coaching. But I wouldn't say that it's over the top. We just recruit, doing our thing.
Coach, sorry to circle back around to this. You're right here. About not being entitled and that type of thing. Your players yesterday were talking about the biggest difference of this offense is just how confident they are in themselves and how they move the ball. Is that a delicate balance to strike at all of having that confidence without pushing that too far into entitlement?
No, I think that I think you can be a very hard-working player and be very extremely confident in what you've been able to do thus far. So I don't think there's a conflict there at all. We'll want to be confident. There's nothing wrong with being confident. What I don't want to happen to our football team is for it to get soft. And so, soft in terms of whether it's physically or mentally, or think that because I'm here that I should be granted certain things that weren't accepted before. And I think we always have to ground ourselves in that, whether I have to call people out who at times because they're, you know, whatever it is, just small things. But I just think that you've got to make sure that you stay the course and you've got to remain who you are. You cannot forget where you came from. I think it's been something we've talked a lot about here. Never forget where we came from, what we've had to endure to get there, because it can change like that.
Time for two more.
Real quick, no Mylan Hicks on the depth chart. Was there a chance he's back?
There's a chance he'll practice a little bit today, and we'll see where he's at.
Coach, just to make sure I'm not misunderstanding, when you say never forget where you came from and what you had to do to get there, are you talking about Michigan State's rise in the Big Ten and how the program has grown?
No, well, I'm talking about everything that we've done as individuals and as a group, whether it's how you got to Michigan State or you know, how you became a starter from being a scout teamer, or whether it's, you know, how you became the head coach at Michigan State. You know, I think that's a lesson to all of us, just in terms of, you know, just want to stay grounded. That's all. That's the only thing I'm talking about there is, you know, just stay grounded, persevere, understand there are challenges ahead, and, you know, we've got a great one coming this weekend, and understand that, you know, you need to be at your best to meet those challenges.
But just to follow
They
up,
just don't happen.
how much of a climb and what have you had to endure from 2007 to put the program on the stage? It's going to be on Saturday night.
Been a lot of positives throughout those years, and there's been some setbacks. And when there's been a setback, we've been able to regather people and move forward. We started out 4-0 in 2007, and then we lost some games, close games. But that's been That's been a trend. We never didn't win bowl games for a while. Now we've won 3 straight bowl games. So, I think we're just trying to take the steps necessary to be successful and go beyond where we're at before. I think that's human nature. I think that's team sports, athletics, everything.